Hey guys, hope you are having a good day so far. I was just wanting to say that I'm gonna start instructing with my voice now because I think that think y'all get more out of it, and it's just easier for y'all to understand what I'm trying to communicate instead of using my arrows and stuff like that. It just makes everything more difficult. So hope y'all enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. Okay, so my opponent here is a 1900 rated player from New Zealand, and I start the game off with my Queen's Pawn opening, planning to go Queen's Gambit. So I do that. He takes Queen's Gambit kind of stuff. I mouse slip there. So we go into this thing called Queen's Gambit Accepted Old Variation, which I didn't really know much about. I assumed it'd be the same as the Queen's Gambit Accepted, where you take the pawn. So that's just how I played it. So he develops with knight f6. Then I take the pawn as planned, and he pushes the pawn, making way for his dark square bishop to come out because he's trying to further development. So then he can end up castling later. So I continue my development with knight to c3, and he does the best move here, which is putting pressure on this central pawn because he's trying to open up the file to get his queen to take mine, or to threaten that at least. So I bring another defender into the mix here. So he can't take this anymore. He can't. It's not really even a threat at this point because I have three defenders. I have queen, knight, pawn. He has two attackers, so he's not going to get through. So he does this. He pushes a6, and this always comes before a5 because those are the two moves that they always get the bishop to retreat further back, and the more restricted you have your bishops, the better off you'll be if you have your opponent's bishops restricted. So I just castle here because he can do this, but I mean, I'm fine with dropping it back either here or here. This would even be a decent move because if he ends up castling later, this bishop's already on this diagonal where I'm threatening to take this pawn at some point, and I can move my queen over here and then kind of set up like a little battering ram to take the pawn. So I was fine with that. I castled, and he pushes, which is the best move in the situation. So I was forced back. Didn't choose the best one. I didn't really think of this one at the moment because I thought if I moved here, then he could have something like that, and then I would have to come back anyway. I thought it would just further his development more. It would help him along. So I moved here. I mean, it would be the same thing if he did that. Then I just drop back, so it's fine. He does the best move here, puts his light square bishop on the longest diagonal. It's the diagonal that's hitting also this square, so that's a good move on his part. I simply just take this pawn just to kind of relieve the pressure from my light square bishop, and he takes back, which is the best move. And here I decide to they're calling this a blunder, which I mean, I don't blame them, but it took me like a few seconds to decide to do this because sorry, I have a cough. I thought it'd be a decent idea because I take the pawn here. And of course he takes back because he's in check. He doesn't want to bother with all that. It's a free piece. So he takes back, and then I take his queen with check. He's forced to take, so he takes, and then I bring my rook over to check him again, and he moves somewhere, either here or here, and then I take the other pawn there. So that's what I saw. and that's what ended up happening. So he takes, which is the best move. I take, he takes, I check, and he moves out of the way, and I take the pawn. So the computer's saying that he has a big advantage here, but when it's two humans playing together, this is a pretty even position here. So he moves his rook on this file, and I kind of thought this was an odd move because the rook isn't hitting anything on this file. I mean, maybe it could take the bishop, but that would be a bad trade-off, because after he takes, then I just take his rook, and bishops are worth +3, and rooks are worth +5, so rooks are usually worth more. So I thought that was kind of strange. I thought maybe he should have moved his rook on this file instead, to kind of contest for this file that my rook currently is occupying. But he didn't. So, and I bring out my dark square bishop. I just kind of want to fully develop here. Maybe bring it to here, or play something like this, trying to kick the dark square bishop away. And then he plays that move right there. And I don't know. I mean, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to kick away the only attacker on the other half of the board, which is his half, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, the computer says it's a good move. It's definitely not the best, but I see what he's trying to do. It makes sense. So I mistakenly, I mean, I think it's a good move still. It's a decent move for a blitz game. I added defense to the knight, so he can't really take it for free. And so he brings his knight into the game, and I think this was a pretty good move, because he's threatening my bishop here, and bishops are usually worth more. I know they're both +3. Knights and bishops are both +3, but bishops are usually worth more in the middle game and stuff like that. They have more range. See, sorry, they have more range. His bishops are hitting both of these long diagonals on my king. So yeah, bishops are usually worth more. You want to try and usually trade off your knight for a bishop. So I think that's what he's trying to do here. So I try and kick his dark square bishop away. And then he just takes. He takes because what I said before, it's usually a better trade, and I think in this situation it was for him. So I take his bishop, so we both got rid of a bishop. So I mean, that's pretty even. And then he takes my knight, I take his knight, and he gets a free pawn. So at this point, I'm down a piece. This should be easily winning for him if he plays it right. So let's see what he does. So after I defend the pawn, he moves his knight into the game, and this is an odd move, kind of. I mean, he's trying to get his knight in the game by these two squares. He's also trying to forcibly stop this pawn from advancing because it's already on the 5th rank. Maybe he should have moved his rook down here instead, just to keep the rook attacking the pawn. The rook's not really attacking the pawn anymore at this point now because of that. So I push my my knight backwards a little bit to try and attack this light square bishop, because it's kind of irritating my king to not be able to move on any of these if I have to. If the game starts getting to an in-game situation where we have less pieces on the board, I need my king to be active. So I'm trying to get this bishop out of the way. And he takes that knight because he wants his bishop to be there, of course, to keep my king away from the center of the board. So I take back, adding a defense to this pawn here. So he brings his king a little bit closer because he's trying to get his king active, which is what I want to do, but I can't. So I try and kick away his bishop again. He just brings it back, and this is considered the best move, I think, because this is the place where the bishop has the most range. So my rooks can no longer activate this, can no longer use this square if they have to, and also the bishop here is defending this pawn right here. If he wants to later push this, and then he can also push these two because I hardly have any pawns on this side, so that would just be a winning situation for him. So I try and create basically the only threat I can, just pushing my passed pawns. And so he brings his rook down because he's trying to keep the pawns from moving forward. And if he has these two rooks here and I only have one, then he'll be able to take this pawn for free, because after he moves here, and let's say I play something like this, then he can take this pawn with one of his rooks, and then I take his rook, and then he takes my rook with this one. So that would just be a free pawn, and then also that would be getting rid of one of my rooks. So we would just be closer to an end game that he's winning in because he has an extra bishop. So I move my rook over because I'm trying to defend that pawn. If he ends up doing this, he could have instead of doing this, because this is what he played in the game, he could have gone here, maybe take control of the only open file in the game. That probably would have been a pretty good move too. As it shows, I didn't really play the best move. I am basically 30 seconds lower on time than him. So I mean, I'm finding good moves, just not the best ones. So he keeps the pawn from moving forward and keeps the attack and the heat up on this pawn. So can't really move my rooks, because then he'll just take the pawn. So he has this bishop to work with now, because this bishop it's not attacking anything. It is defending something, but I'm not really attacking that pawn at the time. So he can really move this bishop wherever he wants to. He can push these pawns. He can bring his king in. My king's kind of stuck in the corner. So I try and bring my king in because his bishop's no longer guarding these squares. So I can kind of like push my king more to the center, which is usually what you want to do. So he tries to come in. He's trying to get over here to forcibly take this pawn by adding 3 attackers to my 2, and so he'd be able to take it at that point. So I bring my king over a little bit more. There's nothing I can really do about that. I don't really have another piece to attack his king to push it away or anything. So he's trying to create more threats for me now, because he doesn't want me to just march my king up over here, stuff like that. He doesn't want me to think about, I don't know, maybe doing this, and then once he does that, then I can check him and start pushing my rooks up the ranks and stuff. He doesn't want me to think about that, so he makes another threat for me to have to deal with. So I just kind of push my king up towards the pawn just to try and keep him at bay. He pushes another pawn down, which is the best move, because, I mean, just look at these pawns. Like, look at that. Look at this. Like, there's nothing I can really do about that. So I basically do the only move I could do is try and stop the pawns. They're saying that rook g1's best move. Didn't really see that. Didn't really have much time to think about that. If I did have a fleeting thought of moving there, the idea of them just coming through this pawn and just taking it that just removed that thought from my head. So I didn't really have that as a thought. So I just kind of pushed my pawn, just trying to keep his pawns further up. And obviously he can move down, but he can't really move further than that, because then I could take. So he moves down, best move. Not very surprising. These pawn chains are usually like very strong, especially in games. So I've moved my king down just to try and defend these squares, and his bishop can't really threaten me. I'm on dark squares, so that's why it's the best move in this situation. And he pushes another pawn down just to kind of complete this this pawn chain here, make it as strong as it can. That's why it's the best move. And I bring my king over just to kind of step in the way of that, step in the way of him moving the pawns further down the board. So he brings his rook over here. I didn't really understand this because, well, I mean, it makes sense that he's trying to push this pawn, yeah. And I can't remember who said this, but someone said that usually people think about tactics wrong, where they think you do something like that where you bring the rook over and then you do this, but usually what you want to do is you want to reverse that. So in this situation, the computer was saying you want to push the pawn first, and then you kind of want to do this to kind of get the rook down here forcibly, which makes sense. It's just kind of hard to think about that kind of stuff in the moment. So I push my king up, just kind of get in the way so he can't do that. That's why it's the best move. Now, if he had played this beforehand, before moving his rook, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So that's why it would have been a better move for him to move his pawn down. So I do that, just kind of block. He moves over there. He moves rook b8, just to kind of take control of this open file, which it's a pretty good move. I think it's, what is it on the, yeah, it's, I think once it stops calculating, it's like second best, something like that. But it's a pretty good move. So I take the pawn. Didn't really see what else I could do. I didn't want to do this because then he just doubles up again or brings his rook down and stuff, and that would look nasty. So I didn't want to do that. So he makes a mistake here in that he kind of gives me a little bit of hope here. He makes it to where I can trade down, and then I can bring my king back in, and he kind of has to have his king here to kind of guard these pawns and stuff like that. So he brings his bishop back to kind of like, I think, to stop these pawns from ever being able to move up the board, which makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't call it a mistake. It looks good, so it makes sense. So I'm just bringing my king closer to the middle, just trying to create as many threats as possible, trying to keep things tight. And he goes for that pawn. He adds another attacker, so I can't really defend that pawn at that point. I don't really have any more attackers left, or defenders, so that pawn's pretty much lost. So I just keep moving my king to the center just to see what will happen. And then he takes, and I take, and he takes back. And I thought that was pretty good for me because his king's on the last row there, and it's pretty far away from all the action. So I thought maybe I have a chance. I mean, I do have an extra pawn. Maybe I can do something. So I try and have my king over here to block his king from ever being able to go there or get close to my other pawns. So he does basically the only move he can. I think almost any other move. Let's see if that. Okay, so that would work too. Guess he didn't see that. I mean, we are low on time at this point. Either way, both of those are good moves, I guess. The computer thinks so. So I play best move. And the idea is that if he captures here, it's a mistake because then I can take e6, and it's basically a draw at that point because he has to come back and defend, and it's just a mess for him. So, that's actually what he did. And so he had to come back and defend. And I made a big mistake here because at this point he can just, I think it's a waiting move, where he just waits over here, and I have to move somewhere. And after I move, say like d6 or something like that, then he has bishop b7. It's just like a waiting move, and then I don't really have anything else I can do. I mean, I can like push the pawn maybe, but then at that point, then he can just go like c8, and it's just basically waiting. I could try and do something like that and get out of the way, but then he can just come over here and just keep the pawn from ever reaching the nth rank. So that's why that was a mistake on my part, and he misses that. I mean, yeah, we are super low on time, so it makes sense he missed it. I wouldn't have gotten it. So it was kind of missed win. That was the only move I could do at that point, and he takes best move. I have to take, or else I lose the game basically. He comes back to defend that pawn, and I mean he's still up in material, but it's a draw at this point because he has to defend this pawn with the bishop. His bishop can't really go anywhere at that point. I can always move my king on one of these two squares. So for like this one or this one, the order is always going to be inside my favor, so he can't ever get close enough to my pawn that I can't just scoot back over or anything. So that's why it's a draw. So I just move over. He plays best move, and I just push the pawn up, and then he tries to get closer just to keep me from being able to get a queen on the board again. And I just keep pushing, and he just keeps following, and it's still a draw at this point. But this is where he makes a mistake here. Sorry. And the reason why this is a mistake is because, I mean, I can just keep going. I can just keep pushing my king up, and even if he plays the best move, I can just keep going, and his bishop has no way of getting in to stop that pawn coming forward. So that's why that was a big mistake on his part for checking me there. Now, if he had done this, which is what the computer is suggesting, best move for me would have been g5, and at that point, I mean, he can move up here. He could move like what the computer is suggesting is g3, and it's basically just a tie. But he didn't do that. He kind of, I guess, he was trying to just make me run low on time. You can't see it, but I think I'm like 12 seconds, something like that. I have 12 seconds left. So he's just trying to check me, make me run low on time and stuff. I mean, it makes sense. So I play the only move, and he plays best move. I play best move, just moving it up, and I finally get the queen. So, sorry. So I'm back on top. Not really much else to say. Kind of lost the game at that point. Became kind of like a bullet game after that. We were both super low on time. As you can see, he has like 4 seconds. I have something like 3. And we just move around the board a bunch. The reason why I did that is because he's so low on time. He has like 2 seconds, I think. Doesn't really have time to think. He's just moving anywhere. I mean, if he did take the queen, it would have been luck basically, because he's just trying to move as fast as possible just to win on time. If he had taken, he would have had to like march all the way down here just to take this other pawn. He wouldn't have had time for that. So that's why I took the bishop, just to make him waste more time. So he didn't take because he's not really thinking about taking, or he didn't think I'd do that. He's just trying to move, win on time. And so we're just moving as fast as possible. I'm just trying to eliminate the threats, get another queen if possible. I check him, and then he runs out of time. And so that's basically the game, and I won by 1.7 seconds. And yeah, I thought that was kind of surprising. I actually came back because, where was it? It was, I mean, basically like the whole game. Yeah, like see here, it's like in the middle of the game. I was down like almost a whole minute. So I mean, I'm kind of surprised that I came back and won. It was a really close game. But yeah, that's it. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.